how to reduce your grant to the amount where it's just not worth it.
Right. That's the whole
GA
thing.
Because people who are in political office, and particularly Arno, who have no exposure to this, who lives in a very comfortable house and who drives nice Hummers, don't have to deal with this in their everyday life, so they're not exposed to it, and they think that the people who they can do this to won't go away.
Because cuts are happening across the board in all services, it's not as if one cut leaves something else to fall back upon. We're seeing CalWorks grants are going down. The GA time limit means people get aid for 3 months out of an entire year. So there's not a safety net. So if these people lose their in-home supportive services, there is no money for them to fall back on to get private care. It's just being cut across the board.
And families are being taken apart. The indigent populations are already some of the most isolated communities, and by taking away in-home supportive services, you're telling families that it's better to be away from each other than to be together and to use that support that's already built into your relationships. And that just can't be good for any community, and it's not good for the individuals as well.
And I think the great thing about in-home supportive services is that the caregiver gets paid, and so for poor families, it's two sources of relief for them. It's care for the disabled person, and it's a job for the person that's giving the care. So it's almost a 2-for-1 deal that you totally lose the benefit of if you're sending people to institutions.
And of course, with the economy being the way it is, taking money out of the community is the last thing you want to do. So taking those jobs away is going to reduce state revenue in the long term, because it's sucking money out of communities that already don't have enough to spend. Which is, I mean, that's happening in state and local governments across the board because they are under this fiscal stress, but it is the opposite of what you'd think would be the right policy. It's long-term destructive to the state as well as being immediately and long-term destructive to individuals and families.
When there is pain to be felt, there needs to be distribution of that pain. So if we're going to cut to poor people, we need to ask the corporations and people who have more capacity and more money to pay more. And for me, that means things like the oil extraction tax. We're one of the few states that don't do that. Other states do that. If these corporations that are making tons and tons of money, they can help everyone more, help the state more.